A warm welcome to this week's episode of Property TV, where we'll be discussing the interest rate changes, the growth of the PBSA, further regulations and the draft of the tenant fee bill. So let's get cracking. So as you would have seen in the news, last week the Bank of England doubled the interest rate. And whilst that may seem as though that's a huge step, in essence interest rates have gone up from 0.25% to 0.5%. However, this is the first rise in a decade the Bank of England has chosen to increase those rates. Now, as predicted on this very programme some months ago, after the Fed had raised their interest rates, I did say we will be seeing interest rates shortly going up. And we've seen that, and the Bank of England have said expect more to come. Now, the interesting thing is they really push this against two things. One, fall in productivity, and two, an increase in inflation. However, what I would say is let's look at what they're doing to actually mitigate those. Very little indeed. And in fact, if you look at the lending that's happening right now from banks to small businesses, it's at an all-time low. So perhaps if the Bank of England got involved in actually making the banks lend, we'd see less of an issue with inflation and more productivity due to more jobs being created. Now let's look at the draft tenant fee bill that's going to Parliament, where it will become law very shortly. So right now the proposed bill has some things in there which will be interesting to landlords, letting agents and also tenants. The first one is the maximum deposit that the government are proposing that can be taken in advance is now going to be 6 weeks. And the maximum holding fee that a tenant can be charged up front to secure a property is going to be limited to just 1 week. So 1 week to limit a tenant potentially moving into a £150,000 to maybe a £500,000 property based on what the government think is in our best interests. Now at the same time, what, if anything, can landlords or tenants charge for referencing? Guess what? Nothing at all. So how tenants are going to be referenced going forward, I don't really know, but it will be interesting to see what debates take part in Parliament when this fee bill goes into Parliament. It's actually debated by people that are actually on the cold face of lettings, as opposed to someone up in government thinking this was a great idea and let's really restrict the free movement of capital within the lettings industry. So let's watch this space to find out what happens next with the tenant fee bill, which will become in law very shortly. As to the specifics of it, we're going to watch and see if anything is going to be changed as they get into the real debates in Parliament. And finally, let's end by a quick look at regulations. So Bedford Borough Council are doing a consultation right now to review their additional licensing that's been in place for the last 4 years. Now, as we know, the government are proposing to actually change the licensing so that when you've got 4 or more people in a property and on any storage you will need licensing anyhow. So my question to Bedford Borough Council would be, is this really necessary when the government are going to change licensing anyhow? But if you're in that borough, please do make sure you get in your opinions to the borough as to how viable that scheme has been. And now finally, let's look at purpose-built student accommodation, and what's commonly now been known as the Cinderella of this sector, or HMOs. Now, HMOs has generally been the mainstay of smaller investors, but now the institutional investors are actually getting into the market with a recent institutional offering of 200 million secured by Student Cribs for new student accommodation. And this has been led by several factors. Firstly, the tightening up of regulations. Secondly, the RICS surveyor's valuation methodology, which came out recently last year. And thirdly, the very attractive yields. With 1.7 million undergraduates in the UK and 400,000 of those actually renting into HMOs, there is a big opportunity for someone that wants to step up and maybe change the sector and improve standards further. So just watch this space, as I foresee that there will be more institutional investors getting into this market very shortly. So that's all from us this week at Property TV. Please do keep on sending in your comments, ideas and questions, and we'll look forward to seeing you on another episode. Bye for now.